The following audio may contain the personal testimonials of Take Shape for Life health coaches or clients. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to healthy living and weight loss will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a physician before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the Take Shape for Life team.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the Habits of Health webinar tonight. It is my privilege and pleasure to introduce to you Global Director Jan Paxman.
Thank you, Angie. I'm so happy to be on here tonight. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm so excited to have Gwen Peterson with me. We are both certified health coaches, and we're so excited tonight to talk about how our vibe attracts our tribe. So the sentence here, I think, is really important to consider. Whether we are moving toward optimal health or toward disease, we have support either way. So we're going to talk about that tonight. So Gwen, you have had such a transformation in your health, and over the past few years, you have really created a different vibe in your life. But could you talk to us a little bit about what your life was like before? And the next slide kind of illustrates that. So could you just kind of talk to us about that, what your life was like before you found Take Shape for Life?
You bet. Well, I was thinking about this the other day, that before I found this program, my friend and I had joined a weight loss contest that our city put on. And because we knew how to lose weight in very unhealthy ways, she and I won first and second prize. And we had these big fat checks with photos. And what did we do with our prize money? Because we had lost, 30 or 40 pounds in 3 months or something crazy like that, we went to Olive Garden and then to Dairy Queen after to celebrate our weight loss because we just didn't get that it wasn't just about winning and hitting a number, but it was long-term optimal health that we were trying to achieve. So I slowly have learned that that's not just about hitting a number, but really continuing healthy habits.
Absolutely. And that is what we here at Take Shape for Life are all about. We create an environment around ourselves, even though our environment outside is a lot of times not supportive, and we could have family and friends that are in that same boat. We are the ones who create really our own micro environment where we can stay healthy even amidst that. And we're going to talk about how that's going to happen. So let's go to the next slide. And we're going to talk a little bit about our environment around our home and our work. I know at home sometimes, we have changed a lot in my home. Before I found Take Shape for Life, we usually ate things that were purchased at the grocery store that were processed that we could throw in the oven and cook up really fast. We didn't take time to make healthier foods. We have gotten on board, and a lot of times now my kids, they can't even remember when we had things like lasagnas and pizzas. We don't do that too much anymore, once in a while. But most of the time we're eating much more healthy now. So our home environment has much improved. At work, I know a lot of times I talk to clients and they say, at work it's so hard. We're at the break room. There's donuts everywhere. There's all kinds of things there to throw me off my course all the time. And I know that happens on a regular basis. Gwen, do you want to talk a little bit about social environment and what we deal with in that area?
You bet. Well, one of the things as I was starting to work through living a longer, healthier life that I figured out about myself is when you go out socially, normally people ask you, where do you want to go? And normally it's, well, whatever you want. And I have learned about myself, and I don't care if I'm at my goal weight and maintenance and weight loss, I struggle to go to Mexican restaurants because I truly believe that bowl of chips has a voice and is talking to me saying, one chip won't hurt, and one chip turns into 5 and 10. And if I actually stay strong through the dinner, I really have struggled to focus on the conversation. And that is not what I personally want through a social event. So I purposely choose a restaurant that doesn't have chips, or here locally in Utah, they have this restaurant called Wingers. It has this like movie theater popcorn sitting and refillable. So I purposely just know where my limits are, and I choose different environments socially based on what I want the environment to look like.
Awesome. That's such a great habit of health. I wanted to bring back to Gwen, you mentioned earlier today about a couple of things that you noticed with your family when you were first coming into this, creating this social environment. There were a couple of trip ups that you noticed within your family too. Would you like to expound a little bit about that?
You bet. Well, again, as I started working with where my limits and triggers and all of those things were with the living a longer, healthier life, all of a sudden, the weekend that I was reading about things that trigger me, my teenage daughter broke up with the star basketball player, which at 14, luckily, it was just holding hands, but still, he was kind of, anyway, so I was thrilled that little relationship was over, but her friends brought over a pint of Ben and Jerry's and brownies to console her about having broken up with the boy. And all of a sudden I was like, at 14 years old, she just learned how to cope with food, with sadness. Now, all of us adults know that when we're sad and struggling, that's a lot of people's triggers, is sadness is linked to food. But then the very next morning, my two younger kids had soccer games, and they have been playing soccer for years. And as we went to the game in the car, I said, now remember, if you guys score a goal, we'll take you to go get Slurpees. And then I thought, I'm teaching my children to reward good behavior with food. Just like me winning that big fat check for losing a bunch of weight, I rewarded myself with food. So luckily for me, yes, I was reading the book for me and analyzing it for me, but it also made me recognize what things I was creating in my home that are the same things that I'm working with my clients to reverse when they're in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. So that's been a really great shift for me to be able to have good dialogue with my children about not coping with food when you're sad or rewards. And now as they still play soccer and they still do score goals. So we then go take them to go do fun things to reward them with fun, like going into playing a couple video games or going into a trampoline park or something like that. So reward is not attached to food.
Oh, that is awesome. That is so great. So wonderful when we actually can recognize those triggers and what's actually happening, and we can start to turn this around. And I just wanted to draw a little bit of attention to Dr. Anderson's book, Discover Your Optimal Health. On page 84, if you haven't read this book, it's a fantastic resource for us on how to turn this around. So I just wanted to cite a study that was done in the Journal of Medicine and the New England Journal of Medicine in July of 2007, published a study that confirmed that the spread of obesity comes through associations with people, not necessarily only in our own homes, but anyone in our circle of influence. And it doesn't even have to be in the same geographical surrounding. It can be across the country. Whoever are the people that you're talking with and associating with the most, that tends to be who we are most like. And so if we can go to the next slide. It's important that we think about that. You know, who are we associating with the most? Jim Rohn, who is a very predominant personal development instructor, taught the same principle, that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So I'd like to just pull up a poll right now for those of you who are on your computers, and let's just ask that question. If you could rate the 5 closest friends in your world regarding their health, where would you rate them? Either very healthy, they're enjoying great health and focused on making good choices, moderately healthy, there's room to improve, or not very healthy, they're not trying to make healthier choices and maybe they don't care. So let's take a second and just rate those top 5 people in your life, and where would you put them? Seeing that go. While that poll's running, I just wanted to share with you in Dr. Anderson's book on page 9, another version of that little illustration that we saw about our toxic environment. You know, that once we create that micro environment inside of the world for ourselves, we can be safe with healthy eating, healthy relaxation, healthy activity, healthy sleep. Living the habits of health creates that barrier for us, but we need support to be able to create that healthy micro environment. So let's see if we've got the results from the poll yet. Okay, interesting. All right, so on average, we've got 24% or 12% said that their 5 top closest people in their world were very healthy. 73% said room to improve. I think that's safe to say, we all can. And then 15% said they're living in an environment with not too much health going on. So interesting results. Thank you so much. Very cool. Okay, so let's move on. I think it's important that we ask ourselves some questions. So this information came from one of our sources of support through Take Shape for Life. We have a wonderful support email that we send out to our clients every week. And so let's think about what are the consistent conversations that we have with people in our lives regularly. Are they positive? How about the conversations we have with ourselves? You know, the chatter that happens, you know, how much of that goes negative? How many times a day do we catch ourselves complaining about things? Something to think about, right? If 5 random people in your life were asked to describe you in 5 words, what would they say? I hope they'd say good words. What kind of vibe are we creating, really? Awesome. Okay, we'll just continue on. All right, so Gwen, can you just talk to us about the benefits of support in a positive direction?
You bet. Well, the thing that I have found for me, and I find that a lot of my clients feel the same way, is that it's a lot easier to do things with people that are linking arms with you. And I know when I first started the program, I like the first thing said about feeling lonely and sitting at dinner with all these people eating junky food. And I'm sitting there having all this negative self-talk about, well, why did I gain weight? And why can't I eat that dessert? And all of these things going on through my head. But then as I started engaging in our client support group and with my coach, all of those things really helped me gain a sense of empowerment and control. Because I don't know how many of you are out there live watching this, but basically I have found that sometimes our support system or people around us aren't too supportive of us making good, healthy choices. And so they kind of can let you know that. And so ultimately what I found is, for me, it came down to posturing that I was ready to take on my health and not feel tired, exhausted, not sleep well, joints hurting, not liking how I looked. And what I found is the more that I talked openly and honestly about my feelings about why I wanted to get healthy, it made some of those people that were in my immediate support system more interested in supporting me toward my journey.
That is so true. I know a lot of the people that I've worked with, they'll want to hide it, the fact that they are, embarking on this journey. They'll want to hide it. They don't want the accountability. Well, what if I fail? I don't want anyone to know. But the reality is, if you talk about it like you say, people will really support you. And it's a lot about how you posture it. I've had people go to events and say, well, I don't know if I can have that because I'm on this diet thing. Well, of course, people are going to pity them, when they talk that way. But when we talk about it and retrain them about creating a different vibe where they go in and they say, oh, you know what, I'm really focusing on balancing my blood sugar right now and I feel so much better. So I'm going to say no thanks right now. People respect that and they say, wow, what are you doing? Because I want some of that. It's that energy that you put out there that really, helps them understand it's a positive vibe that you're making, that you're creating. So that's fantastic. And you can see all of these different benefits here that, you know, as we immerse ourselves in the support that our program offers, there's so much to gain here. You gain a sense of empowerment and control. You can improve your coping skills. You can adjust better. You can talk, like Gwen said, talking openly and honestly about your feelings. It reduces stress, decreases anxiety, depression, fatigue when we share what we're doing.
Yes, and Jan, I tell you that the thing that I find is when I have somebody offering me that one piece of pie isn't going to hurt my journey, I ultimately, you know, say, well, like you said, I'm working on balancing my blood sugar, and that will spike my blood sugar. And right now I'm really working on keeping that blood sugar balanced so that my inflammation goes down and I sleep better. And like you said, when you just say I'm working on balancing my blood sugar, and that piece of bread or that dessert is going to spike my blood sugar and make my inflammation worse, they respect that and they go, oh yeah, I don't want you to eat that if that's what this is going to do for you. And you know, they don't understand that's what it's doing for them as well. But yes.
Right. And they really don't recognize the connection between the sugar and the inflammation either. And maybe that's just what they need to hear to spark their interest too.
Yes, and I think another point to make is one of my coaches, their life really revolved, as we're talking about support, her support system was very into finding fine wines and going around and enjoying a nice bottle of wine, or multiple bottles of wine at dinner. And so she realized that she had some health issues, which is why she did the program. So she was very consistent on, I am not drinking alcohol. I'm going to do the program really well. And she really quickly learned that there was a lot of alcohol being drank at their event. And so she says, I always get a wine glass, ask them to fill it with sparkling water with a lime. And honestly, nobody even pays attention to what she is or is not drinking. And now that she's been in maintenance and kept her weight off for 3 years, yes, she will occasionally have a glass of wine. But as she said, her life used to be 2 glasses of wine a night. And then if you are going out socially, it's a lot more glasses of wine. So I think that that's also a solution for some of the people that maybe the dessert or bread is not a question, it's the alcohol. How does that conversation look for them explaining why they're not drinking?
Yeah, awesome. Great idea. Super. Okay, so let's look at what do we have with Take Shape for Life? What do we offer that will really be the defining factor in your long-term success? So we've got multiple things here. We have your private Facebook groups. We have, like I mentioned before, the weekly Habit of Health email that gets sent out every week. We've also got our client support call, like we just had one just a half an hour ago. A doctor and nurse from our company is on that to answer questions live for any of our clients or coaches. We also have this webinar every week where we have a topic that is a habit of health topic that we really want to reinforce for you so that you get these things into your mind and really solidify those things. They become part of who you are. Nutrition support is a wonderful resource for us. You can email them, you can call them, you can ask them for questions about what foods are okay or what recipe or how you can, tweak this or that or anything. They are so very helpful. And then obviously you've got your health coach, one-on-one health coach that you can contact and reach out to every single week. And they're working with you step by step, hip to hip, to help you be able to achieve optimal health. So are you taking advantage of these things?
And Jan, can I make a plug about nutrition support? When I first became a coach, I called them all the time because I wanted to make sure I was giving clients the technical answer. And then for me, I learned so much about myself as I was learning from my clients. So if all of you guys are on this call, I challenge you to call nutrition support a couple of times in the next week before you reach out and ask your coach. Because I remember one of my clients saying, I could ask you, but I want the true medical answer. And so by default, I have a lot of clients that use nutrition support as one of their resources. And for those of you that have not taken one of your favorite recipes and built it into nutrition support, and it's a perfect lean and green, wow. When people say, well, I have my things I like, well, send it to nutrition support. That's what you get paid for, and they'll kick it back correctly for you to be able to still enjoy it in a true lean and green fashion.
Yeah, they do a great job. And email is nice too when you email them, because when you get that back, you've got it in writing and you can use that as a resource over and over and over. So good. So perfect. Okay, so I look at this, it's kind of like if you immerse yourself in those things, it's almost like going to health school. So you wouldn't think that you'd be very good at anything. Like if you wanted to get a degree or a trade, vocation, any of those things, we don't get good at anything, a sport, unless we become educated on how this works and we practice it, right? So how in the world do we think we're going to get great at an optimal healthy lifestyle if we don't learn it first and practice it every day? So we get to educate ourselves and practice this. That's what creates optimal days. We need to go to health school. So if you can't get on live to these things, that's okay. You can always get into some of the other options that we're going to talk about here in just a minute. But I just think I want to challenge everybody out there to continue to invest in your long-term success by coming out and being part of this support. So we can create this buffer system around ourselves with the education, the vibe, the feel. All of us together are the tribe. So, all right, next slide, please. Okay, Gwen, you've got to tell this story. This is such a funny story about one of the clients on our team, and this was awesome. So Gwen, tell it.
Yes. Well, so our client support group, and this has been a couple of years ago, I tried to go back and find the actual post of what I'm about to tell, and I couldn't find it to actually reword it the way that it was written. But basically, T was our first client, and she was the first client in her family. So like I mentioned, she went to this big family function, and they were kind of doing the thing where, hey, what you're eating, eat what we're eating. One off-plan meal won't hurt you. And they weren't trying to be negative. It was just they didn't understand. And she had reached out to her health coach, but I think it was a Friday or Saturday night, and her health coach was out and about as well. So she didn't even have her phone on. And so T did exactly what we hope every single client would do. She went into the client support group and said, I'm in the stall in the bathroom. Nobody understands what I'm doing, and they're telling me one dessert or whatever it was isn't going to hurt me. Tell me I'm staying strong is what I'm supposed to do. And then, boom, that thread of support was about the most amazing thing I had ever seen, because she did what, for us as coaches, we can't be on 24 hours a day. So ultimately she did the next best thing and got more than a coach's support. She got, I think, 30 things going, T, stay the course. We're here for you. And then if I remember right, she reported back that she had stayed strong. But then what's so beautiful about this is if you look, the first photo of her is on the left, and then her husband got on board and they became coaches, and as you can see, they have both lost a lot of weight. And then T's mom has come on board, also become a coach, and as you can see, she's gone from 140 to 120, and they've all kept their weight off. So I love how, if she hadn't reached out to that group, she maybe would have gone off plan and would not have created this ripple effect that one message of support really helped her create more than just a relationship with her health coach, but her army of people, that her tribe that were there supporting her. So I love how this is a perfect ripple effect of photos.
So great. Yep, I'm sure there's so many stories out there of the same situation that happens, that ripples out and ripples out. You'll never know the impact that your example can create. That's fantastic. So we love Tad and T and Lorraine. Thanks, guys, for letting us use your pics.
Yes.
Okay, so what part do we play in all of this? So all of this is there for us, but guess what? We get to choose whether or not we engage. Do we engage in those Facebook groups? Are we just lurking, or are we diving in? Are we supporting them? Are we helping out? Do we read and utilize Dr. A's books and the guidebook? Like Gwen has cited Living a Longer, Healthier Life quite a bit. That's such a powerful tool. Are we listening to these calls? Are we hopping in? Are we inviting our friends, our other clients that we know of? Are we inviting people to come in and just check it out? If you can't get on live, no problem. Podcast is so easy. You've got half the people out there have it already loaded on their phone when they get their phones. But if not, you can download the free app. You just search up TSFL or Habits of Health, and there's just a ton of calls right there at your fingertips. You can listen to them while you're cleaning the kitchen, while you're folding clothes, while you're out on a walk. You can listen to them while you're commuting. You can listen to them while you're whatever. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can just plug in and listen to those calls and get that. And there's so much, oops, we're going backwards. There's so much.
Jan, it's funny you say that as you're commuting, because there was one time, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, I listened to the podcast, and I drove to your house, which Jan and I live about an hour away from each other, but there was traffic. So I had an hour and a half drive both directions. And so I loaded the podcast app, flipped on, I don't remember whether it was the doctor's call. Anyway, and I listened to, because I had, an hour and a half there and an hour and a half back. I listened to 6 in a row, and the information I gained from that 3 hours was probably more than I gained in a long time. So those podcasts have worked for me as well.
Yep, they're so easy. And you will not believe when you have that stuff in your head, that when a situation presents itself, what it does is it changes your thought processes, right? That stuff is in your head. You're learning. When the thoughts change, then your feelings change. Sometimes people get that mixed up. They think they feel stuff first and then they think about it. But the reality is our thoughts are first and then we feel. So if we change our thoughts because we're learning, then that changes how we feel. Our relationship with food starts to change, which changes our actions. We start to make better choices just naturally. And then that changes our results. So do you see the power in this? This is the secret sauce. If we aren't getting this, we are going to miss it and we'll just be doing a diet. This is what empowers us to change our lifestyles forever for good. And the other part is our coaches. You know what? How many times, if you don't hear from your coach, do you reach out to them ever? That's one thing that really is helpful, is take the initiative. Let's call our coach, surprise them, make their day. Hey, I'm just checking in. Wow, wouldn't that be awesome? Let's take a proactive approach and really dial that in. Work with them, use them. When you're having a weak moment, holy cow, call your coach. Hey, I need you to talk me through this, or I'm going on a vacation. Can you help me work through it? That's just so powerful. So be sure you're playing your part and engaging in. And the other thing, I was talking to a client today. I know he's on. His name is Stan. Many of you know him. He has created so much health in his life over the last 9 months. Hasn't even been on plan a year yet, and his life is dramatically changing. But he said, the biggest thing that I focus on is all of these things. I'm so grateful for them. So much support. I don't look at, gosh, I can't do this or I can't do that. I look what I can do. Look at what I do have. I don't feel bad that I can't have that cheesecake. I get this brownie. I look for the good in everything, and he does. And he is so successful. So I really want to challenge you guys to really keep that in mind when you're going forward. So
And Jan, somebody asked about the podcast. Just to tell you, every phone comes loaded with a podcast app. So just search for the app that came loaded on your phone, and then just search TSFL, and all those calls will show up, and you can just click to download, and then they store in your phone. And then once they load the next weeks, it'll just give you a notification that there's a new one sitting there.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay, next. So Gwen, just really quickly, what would you say has been the one thing that has really helped you to create that vibe and make it long lasting?
For me, I would say it has been my becoming a coach. The friend that won the big check with me, she was my first client, because when she saw that I was starting to lose weight, she's like, well, if you're going to get healthy, I'm going to get healthy. We do this together. And so by default, she asked me to coach her. And I didn't expect, as I started really gaining health and then showing that it worked and kept it off, the people have just continued to come into my life asking, will you help me? When you become a coach, and you don't have to go coach 100 people, it's normally just linking arms with a couple people that are always talking about health anyway, and helping them get healthy, because ultimately what that creates is a level of accountability on you that you cannot put on yourself. And trust me, as a coach, I don't have one coach that I know that is 100%. But let me tell you, when a client texts you and says, I'm struggling today, will you help me? And you're going, I'm struggling today too. Okay, what do I need to tell them? I need to tell myself. It really helps those of us that, you know, as I say, I have 42 years of bad habits I'm working through. Just because I've listened to a few podcasts, and done the Living a Longer, Healthier workbook a few times, doesn't mean that I'm magically never looking at those crazy things in my pantry that might see, thinking, I'm never going to touch those. So I just like to plug the coaching thing. That for me, it's what has helped me stay focused, because I have other people depending on me for their health.
Absolutely. And besides that, it's super fun. We are a community of people that care about each other. We care for our clients and we want the best for them. Everyone deserves great health. So with that, guys, you're being part of the tribe really can improve your vibe. And I hope this has been helpful for you tonight. We have enjoyed it so much. So thank you so much for having us.
The preceding audio may have contained the personal testimonials of some Take Shape for Life health coaches or clients. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified, and your individual path to healthy living and weight loss will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a physician before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the Take Shape for Life team.